Daily trading recap for the first day of the trading year for 2022. Starting off with a bang, not really much going for me for A+ setups. I was 2 paper trades on the day going short, and then attempted to go long on NTRB twice in and out on that one, but we'll get into that on the individual breakdowns for the tickers themselves. Other than that, I would categorize today kind of as a scalper of the movers types of day today. There's, of course, plenty of opportunity there, as whenever the market is open, there's always going to be opportunity whenever there is price movement. But that's just how I kind of looked at it. The opportunities today, it just wasn't really any true. Some tickers, of course, are going to defy that, but just of the ones I was peering at, just not really a hard defined full day trend of the stock that really appeases my personality as a trader of what I want to be looking to capitalize on, is riding the momentum of what the full day sentiment for a chart is, and just really did not have anything harder. That was kind of eyeing some other tickers of KPRX and MBOT, of some potential plays to come of those, but just really not a lot of volume, and they kind of did opposite of what I thought they were going to do actually. Just mixed bag there to start off the year that way. Let's look at some dollar volume first before we go ahead any further. NASDAQ $230 billion volume. Good to see here as of half an hour after the close. NYSE $280 billion volume. OTC's $1.6 billion volume. SPY itself looks like it was going to be a pretty hard little break here, but ended up being a nice little dip bottom that still is now hovering back around all-time highs. Once again, we were back 477-ish, just under that 480 area. So we'll see if we continue to maintain this range or rinse and repeat over and over again. These little tiny patterns that just continue to chugga steamroll this SPY train to infinity and beyond that way. Golly, just insane. So that was all the introduction. Let's get into, I'll start off with CELZ. First green day play on this bad boy, super low floater, 2 million American biotech. I did not find any news catalyst, but do not care about that whatsoever. It's up for a reason, so we'll just play it. Nothing crazy for warrants that I found that would surpass anything from today's activity, so just nothing to keep in mind on that regard. Gosh, this was another one of those first green day movers that, okay, do I potentially try to play it here? Of course, this is pretty fairly early for me to try to play this as a morning dump short setup after that initial pre-market spike. But then again, as it continues to play out and see, we have another spike opportunity to a new high of day. Okay, we get another one of these little failure to maintain VWAP attempts. Do we try to play off of that? And actually kind of double topped right around that area, 3.8-ish here. Nice little opportunity before market open, even at that. And was coming into this one for market hours plays to think, okay, yeah, I don't really have any ideas to play this one long. I could see a dip and rip opportunity. I think Chris actually did try to trade this one long as a dip and rip, and yeah, there was certainly the opportunity there. And I was eyeing mainly the backside of that, or looking for a VWAP rejection style of shorts, or shorting into a morning spike, shorting into the end of any of that morning volatility. And sure enough, that trade was certainly there, but it just was, I was mistimed in my entry price, or in my entry point, trying to play off of a premature VWAP rejection there, and it ended up becoming, VWAP reclaim, hold up VWAP, and goes a few more cents, and it was just you're guessing tops at this point. This, of course, was identified by, the top on this one was identified by a huge, was this the biggest of the day? Yeah, biggest of the day volume candle within that 1 minute reversal there that ended up trade confirmation confirming itself as it was breaking to the downside of VWAP there for a nice little, again, another little block there as a trade. But to try and pick that to be for where I would want to be comfortable in nailing that would just require a lot of paper cuts along the way up, of trying to identify tops and pick tops, versus where I really want to be just kind of waiting back and letting these things play out and giving myself that room for the downside, which I thought I was doing with this first entry here, of letting it exhaust itself with this huge first reclaim that should be the start or the motivator for most longs who are trying to play this thing, and for any squirrely shorts who are seeing a lot of green movement there and then just getting scared out before letting the play actually play out. Getting an entry point around there, kind of, some of these end up preempting, failing before they ever actually get to VWAP. I entered this one before it actually did have that VWAP attempt, but let it do what it wants to do there and gave it enough room to do it that way. Again, paper short through trading view. Looked like it was failing, but then of course we rejected and cut it in time to avoid, as it was turning into a different chart and a different pattern than I was initially trading on, cut it to clean the perspective and allow myself to open my eyes that way. And yeah, I identified and saw that, okay, we put in a big volume candle here for this top. Is that going to be the actual top? Are we going to get the pullback that I want to see off of that candle? We could. Of course, it ends up doing that exactly. So learning lessons all around. For a grade of the idea, I give it a B for what I came into the market day looking to do. It wasn't exactly the time frame I was trying to play off of, but still, for execution-wise on the individual trade I was trading, I got to give myself an A for respecting that this was then turning into a different pattern, and that trade was then over. It was going to places that it shouldn't have gone if it was going to work. And then identifying back to the grade idea of the idea grade that, okay, yes, it wasn't within that time frame, but that is shorting, right? It's just about picking the time. It's about knowing that it is eventually going to happen, and there's death upon a lot of these first screen day movers. That is the overall sentiment during market hours for most of these, and especially for the ones that can kind of end up back below VWAP before market open, or just have their little finicky manipulation ways in pre to entice both sides, that they're not just easing out either. They're not wearing them down, the shorts or the longs, both ways, that they can just keep both parties maintained emotionally, get them just going until market hours, and then let the games ensue from there to get the most amount of dollar volume, most amount of attention and eyeballs on these ones to keep people involved in this one, versus just wearing them out in pre and just removing a lot of the potential eyeballs and dollar volume that could be on these plays. This one did have a little bit more opportunity today in that regard. That was really all I want to mention on CELZ. Let's get into NTRB now. If I could type it. This was my actual trader on the day with less than $200 size on both of these trades. Only $100 size on that second trader. This was the very nice first screen day mover from yesterday. After hours, just kind of just blah, sideways, whatever. And that's really how I have to take in all after hours movements regardless. I mean, price is going to be king, and if you're able to get filled at certain prices, that's awesome. But to take those in as what their weight could or should be with how little volume is actually going on, the manipulation that is just reeking during that time frame, it doesn't go into building a profitable or sustainable model of what that chart is actually doing. That's why sometimes it's even better that we just, while looking at an intraday perspective, take away the after hours to give a better perspective of how the stock is actually moving. What are the actual characteristics of the stock versus seeing, okay, we got to tap to 12.5 here, but it really on zero volume. It really didn't get to 12.5. And of course you can't trade at that point either. And yes, we get a dip under VWAP here, but like, where of how many buyers and sellers was that actually an inflection point of? So all those different factors coming into today versus, okay, well, it is a crazy low floater. We've seen some of these before, the ISIGs, SOPA, KTTA comes to mind, but I don't think that was a good representation of a second day squeeze or continuation like ISIG was, that it reaches a critical point or just continues to linger around, consolidate, and then it reaches that straw that breaks the camel's back and just immediately warps into a halt. Looking for that style of move in pre, still kind of prepping for that, hoping for some more of halty action, sketchy spikiness to lead into market hours. And as I was scaling in on this first trade here, I knew going in that I was scaling in at a point of low potential, that, okay, I'm basing this trade off of this 9.5 little low here for how it bounced here and here. Like I mentioned just a few seconds ago, that, yeah, how much weight can I actually put into the after hours moves there? But it's, I got to respect it if it's a technical level and if it is bouncing at those points. And obviously it's showing itself again here. Let's play it off it again. It's an obvious risk level, easy to see. Everybody and their grandma can identify that, and probably going to get manipulated with the stops and how quickly it could drop below that point. But if this thing goes, if it holds that point and goes, it's going to look like the most idiotic trade to have not played off of that. Just going off the probability that, that's too obvious of a play to do that. So going in, knowing it was going to be a low potential trade on that first trade, but risking, of course, that little low there, and as it's breaking, cutting it, moving on to the next one, or allowing it to just breathe and say, okay, I see you're failing here, and as it's a few more minutes progress, it's failing even more into market open. Okay, I'm going to give you a lot more room, let you do what you want to do. If you have any amount of spikage, I could see you collecting a few souls to the short side if they're getting enticed by VWAP rejections. This little first few minutes of market open, that rejection there, this VWAP rejection here on decent volume to suggest that, okay, we could have It is a little rest day. It's that second day. It's just how weird price action works on these days, but we could see a little bit more maybe panic from the non-VWAP breakage that it did have on that first green day. We could see some nice short squeezes if it starts to reverse and test some key levels, especially this $10 level. We did start to get a little squirrely, start to spike back above VWAP, test this little previous market hours high of day here, get close to that 9.6 point, and it was kind of wicky, not a lot of volume coming in, but we reached run point at which we had a big block print that I jumped in on top of, just got filled under 9.6 with 10 shares, a very speculative trade, thinking that, you know, this is going to be awesome if it does become this halty, crazy, insane trade, but that is a lot to ask of this chart for everything else that's going on. And yeah, just again, not very convicted in it enough for me to put big position size behind it. And I did get a few more cents rise out of it after that, confirming some thesis, and it actually did end up tapping above $10 there. But sure enough, man, just got smashed with the biggest 1 minute volume candle on the day back to the downside of VWAP, and that was all she wrote for the morning session and a great deal of the afternoon session as well. So really kind of I think I lost $8 in total. That was my only real trade on the day. Really break even, just again educational, experimental, not really hard conviction on it that I would have to take a big takeaway from this. I knew it was speculative going in on both of those charts, and we were learning from them both ways. So I grade for the idea. I knew it was a D. I know I can't give myself an F because the potential is still there. The risk reward on these setups can sometimes be so extremely extravagant that it just becomes too enticing not to take. So I have to give myself a little bit of a leeway there for knowing the potential risk reward that these trades could have been, and for how I was trading both of these setups. Giving them both a D for the idea of the grade of the idea, and execution wise for how I was trading those trades that I was going into. I got to give myself an A. I can't knock myself at any points. I was respecting the cut levels, understanding when the movement was over, and just moving on to the next one. I can't feel like I add any more to those trades or do anything different there other than probably go the different direction, take the different direction of that trade than I was taking at those points. That was NTRB AFI, my last trader on the day. This was another paper trade. Going to the short side on this one, this was that seeing this one on the scanner, this is that after hours mover news catalyst play that I love to short the crap out of, that we just get this beautiful immediate spike perfectly after market close off of whatever stupid news catalyst. I think the news catalyst for this one was they're getting some infusion of cash because they are running pretty low on cash. But the problem with this one that I felt the whole time, and why I didn't go actually trading this ticker, and why I didn't really use it as apply it the same playbook charts to this trade today, it's a nicey. I mean, it's a real company. It is they're running low on cash, and they're getting to that manipulative point of, hey, we got to do something kind of radical here, and that's what I believe was inducing some of this radical price movement to the stock of what is or should be this real company of a market cap of 42 million. But again, of matching that playbook chart of it was fitting kind of perfectly into that mold of we love to see that spike in the after hours after the close of the previous trading day, and then just a fade, gradual, continual, slow grinding, bleeding away of the longs that were potentially still bagged from this initial spike, looking for more momentum or craziness from there. And then just a continual grinding fade of death during market hours, the same slope pretty much. So I hesitated on all regards. I didn't even want to put it on the watch list for market hours today, knowing because it was that nicey, because of the factor was that they've already got this cash coming in. They're looking for a sale of the company. So just, okay, this is a little bit different of a news catalyst, a little bit different of a setup itself than most of those playbook trades I'm trading. But gosh, it's just kind of matching that chart pattern in my head of what I want to see these tickers do for this specific play. And I was very keen on not playing it, looking at other charts for market open, but keeping it in the corner of the chart as it developed this little first minute, very wicky candle with big volume. I told myself I at least got to get short this one paper just to be in that experimental educational mindset, because it is following along a lot of those key lines of what I was looking for. on that specific playbook that way. And then it also factoring that into MDRR, which was the same thing last week that we saw Thursday to Friday. This was a little bit sketchy of I forget the news catalyst on this one as well, but the same thing, that it wasn't just a PR publicity stunt, it was just something different. And this one also did have a little bit of a rise, and it held a little bit more horizontal than I would have liked to have seen, coming off of a news spike immediately after the close of that previous trading day. So factoring that in as well too for the recent sentiment of what the market has been saying of these types of movers. Gosh, I just can't convict myself enough to be actually short this one with my margin PDT account. So look, the idea, great idea. The grade that I give myself for the idea on this trade, for how it played out today on the charts, it was a D. I did not expect this to fully all the way have a VWAP rejection here. I was just expecting death of this was going to be all the volatility I had on the day and then just continue this nice little slope downward. I can say that looking back at the chart, hey, that's a nice VWAP rejection trade there. And of course, a nice little block trading anywhere from 258-ish, 259-ish here at that rejection point. Taking in profits 232, 233, perfect little 10% profit opportunity, but that's not the trade that I was looking for. And this chart ended up turning into something different than what I was eyeing entirely, even though it was paper. Adjusting on the fly, giving myself a C grade for execution of, gosh, yeah, it was kind of just a blanket entry during market hours of I gotta be in, but I think the overall sentiment for this one is death, so just kind of randomly picking an entry point there, not really basing it hard off of any price rejection or top wiki candle there. And honestly, had I been a little bit more patient and not so gung-ho within that first minute of market hours, that, hey, let this one play out. If it dumps, if it breaks a new low of days, then you missed it, then it's whatever. I have to be willing to do that and let it go. But having the patience to let it play out and go and actually produce a VWAP rejection and recognizing that pattern and say, okay, that is the nice trade that I wasn't necessarily looking for that one from pre-markets, but this chart is showing itself here and I see the pattern to potential to play off at that point. So playing off of that would have been a far better trade idea grade. And of course, execution wise would have been making a lot more profits and making a better grade there on that side too. Those were all of my traders and everything I was in on the day. And then, paper for AFI and CELZ, but then taking that small loss on NTRB. I just want to mention CYTA as well for the 4-2 rejection that it had. This is that, it had this weird third day, very nice third day action, kind of out of nowhere. No news catalyst that I found for any of these days. But it's this American 4G communications company, 4 million float. They have a decent amount of warrants out and a looming $20 million offering that's coming, but it's, what sketchy small cap rocket does not have those out. This is a history of one and doners on the daily as well. So just looking for any sentiment of this one that, hey, we're trying to prove ourselves as not a one and doner anymore. And we do have the potential to actually make multi-day runs. So if it was going to have the sentiment to do that, the actual trend reversal, the characteristic reversal of just one and dones and turning this thing into a multi-day runner, I knew this one could have turned into the idea for me on this one had it started holding up strength above 4.2. This one could have turned into a longer 3, 4, 5 day multi-day mover for how low float it was, starting out the new year hot. Just kind of sketchy, manipulative stocks, how they move that way. That was the idea based on the volume profile for that 4.2 level, not only on the daily, intradaily itself, but also on the daily overall, that for some reason 4.2, 4.3, 4.4-ish had a big point of inflection. I kind of had a bias there on last week Friday as well, that it was double topping here, try to trade through this range very quickly, and when it escaped above that range, it dropped below very quickly. So had it shown strength and resilience to break to the upside of that and push through those lines, I was definitely going to be in to start to look for this one as a longer, maybe weekly style of swing trade. But looking forward, yeah, definitely $5 as a minimum, if not 5, 5, 6. Start to test this $7 high. Again, I thought we could have seen some craziness come out of it, but it got a huge rejection when it did try to even attempt to break above 4.2, kind of semi VWAP-ish area as well. Huge slam with big volume to smack that thing back below VWAP. That was interesting. Funny to see, and kind of a little testament to, hey, that was a somewhat correct thesis, that price point, this little price range did have some means of authority for whatever reason. So good to see that. That is all I wanted to mention. Watching, really nothing that I'm so convicted or keyed in on as of right now, but definitely going to keep eyes on NTRB for this third day play. It's going to be short sale restricted tomorrow. It's holding up decently, moving above VWAP here into the close. We'll see if it does get some volume. It could be a little choppy mess. It could just go crazy right here in this after hours and exhaust a little bit prematurely for what any more buildup or consolidation could add to for price action tomorrow. But keep our eyes on it. It's that crazy low floater, and we love to see those. And hoping for a hot and crazy start of these January and February months and start of 2022 especially. But we're going to take what we are given and thankful for it every single day. That is all I had. I sincerely thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.